Hey, what's going on, guys? So I'm gonna level set with you before this video starts. I actually have had quite the day. I drove 6 hours. I did get to see a friend from college, but unfortunately, I had plans tonight, and one of my friends bailed on me, and that was kind of a bummer. And to be honest with you guys, you may have seen my last video. I had a panic attack today, and I have no idea where that came from. So we're going to talk to a doctor and see what's going on and why I can't seem to get my anxiety under control. But I figured, boy, I don't want this day to end on a sour note. And so I decided to come to a place where when I'm sad, well, quite frankly, it usually calmed me down. And so started the day in Ohio, and today I'm here in Washington D.C. So instead of doing what people normally do when they come on these videos, I'm gonna actually tell you guys a little bit about my history here, and hopefully also show you some monuments and some things that I picked up. And we're here at the National Mall at nighttime, which is the best time to go. But yeah, I hope you guys like it. So this is DC at night and my personal DC story. So obviously this is the Washington Monument. It is DC's most well-known and most visible monument. And actually, so one of the cool things about DC as opposed to a city like New York or even a Boston, Massachusetts, is that they have zoning laws. So I don't know what the exact floor number is. I'll drop a little footnote there, but what you're not allowed to build an apartment or a building taller than the Washington Monument. I think it's like 20 floors, but we'll drop it down below. Monument, boy, this light is bright. I guess I should flash back with you guys a little bit to 2016 and, well, 2015 to be honest. Zach you see before you today would have never done any of that back then, or any of this. I wasn't very confident. I was very fat at the time. And I know that I make jokes about being fat now, but back then, I was a big old dude, man. I didn't have a lot of confidence. And I met this woman, and we started dating. And I breezed past every red flag. By the way, fellas, watch out for red flags. Women are onto something with that. It was a very toxic relationship. And it was very emotionally abusive towards me. And I'm not normally the guy that's like, bitches be tripping, but I had empirical data that bitches were in fact tripping. So, anyway, I took a job for less money in Canton, Ohio, and basically did a whole bunch of stuff for her, took myself into some debt, and when the relationship went belly up, we didn't have two incomes anymore. So I called some friends who are amazing people, and you might actually get to see them on this channel, I'm not sure, to help for me. And they decided, hey, Zach, we have a job for you. Come to DC. It made 50% pay increase, which always good. I would like one of those now. And I packed up everything I owned. Didn't know anybody in the district except for a few of my future coworkers. And they moved to DC. And I spent 5 years here. It was a really great experience for me. We'll get into that a little bit later. So when you come here, I think the really cool thing is you're just taken in awe of the sheer immenseness of this. I'm at the base, and you can't really do it justice with nothing but an iPhone, but we're trying out here, and it's massive. It's easily, any shot that you ever see, on the NBA games or, whatever, it's the most prominent fixture. So now I actually went up back in 8th grade because everybody in Ohio goes on an 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. I think that's a uniquely Midwest and East Coast thing. But since then, there was actually an earthquake here. And when I first moved here, this thing was covered in scaffolding. And it's never been able to quite be open to the public. Every time it opens for a couple weeks and then it shuts back down. So maybe we'll get up there, maybe not, but it's an experience if you have a chance. So as we get further away from the monument, I guess I should kind of tell you guys a little bit more about my story. I actually moved to a small suburb, which is now huge. Like everything in DC, it's constantly going up. They're constantly building new things, named Ashburn, Virginia. And I lived with one of my coworkers at the time. I had a nice little private basement apartment. Had a great time there. So I was actually living with a coworker at the time and didn't know anybody. Packed up everything I owned, just put it in this little apartment. And needless to say, like, come from Podunk, Ohio, and even a city like Columbus. While I love Ohio, like I rep Ohio, I'm here, it's quite a culture shock. Like, this is a diverse city, right? And actually, I credit this city for a lot of things. If it wasn't for the city, I wouldn't have met some of my international friends. And I don't know that you guys would have seen the Columbia Chronicles. I don't know that I would be going to Europe in 2 weeks. I didn't have the curiosity of the world. But when I started meeting people from different walks of life, in different places, that was kind of like a wake-up call to me, and I got curious. So the whole reason this channel exists is in part due to this city. All right, so we actually made it to the most recent memorial, and that, of course, is the World War II Memorial. Now, this got opened up in Obama's, I think, first term. I just remember the budget shutdown that was down here, and I'm not putting my politics in anything, but it's I think it's the newest one on the mall. And it's finally warm enough that looks like that they have the fountains going. But if you look around, what you see, there's two towers, one for the Pacific and one for the Atlantic. But each of these pillars represents a state that participated in World War II, which was all 50. But I think one of the cooler things about this is it's actually one of the only monuments, it might be the only monument now that I think about it, that recognizes the territories as well. American Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico's in here as well. But it's a wonderful place to be. And like during the day, there's all kinds of hustle and bustle through here. Just a great little spot. And I've come down here and read books before, and it's really enjoyable. And there's absolutely no way in hell that I'm gonna come all the way over here and not find the best steak. And of course here, it's very dirty right now, as you can see, but we have the reflecting pool. And you just think about all the history that's happened in this spot that shaped the United States of America into what it is today. The Vietnam protests, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech took place on those steps that we're heading towards. I mean, hell, this is where Forrest saw Jenny when she walked through the water. But like, this place in American history, like, I'm standing here right now at 11 p.m. on a random Friday night, but like certain days here have historically like played significant historical importance to our country. And I mean, like, for instance, there's always something going on down here. Usually the Lincoln Monument is a popular place to have like protests or whatever, but when I lived here, one of the most interesting things, they had the gathering of the Juggalos to protest the FBI labeling them as a domestic terrorist organization, or a domestic organized crime organization. And so like I was walking down here one night and it had, in the middle of the day, and it had like a bunch of people with clown makeup on. But this is like, this little area here is one of the most impactful parts of our of our country, even for something like that. Okay, and when you come here, and we'll get another shot of it, but it's really cool to see all the lights reflecting off the water and the Washington Monument. When we get up on the Lincoln steps, you'll be able to see the Capitol being reflected too. You can kind of see it over there. this place always made me feel happy when I lived here. And whenever I'd have like hard times or anything like that, I would just, I don't know, I'd walk down to the National Mall from Northwest D.C. or hell, even Bethesda. And this was kind of my happy place when I lived here. All right, thank God for night mode. Sorry about the camera quality change. Unfortunately, I have this like weird fear that whenever I flip the camera around, you guys are just seeing me with like the Jabba the Hutt neck. This city's incredible. And I know that everybody thinks, well, of course it's incredible. It's the nation's capital, and it's where the president lives, and it's where Congress lives, and all the congressional people. And yeah, that's part of it. And we're showing that now, right? The history, the tourism stuff. But at the same time, like, there's a whole city here, and it's incredibly diverse. I mean, hell, it extends into 3 states, 4 actually. People come into this place from West Virginia, they come from Pennsylvania, they come from Maryland and Virginia, of course, and they come into the city to work. And it's a huge sprawling metropolis, but because of the fact that you can't build above the height of the Washington Monument, it never really feels that big. It's big enough. It's big enough to be interesting, but it feels small enough that you're never overwhelmed. All right, I want to show you guys this. This is something that not a lot of people know, and I only know because I'm an aviation geek. But you can see, you're like, oh, Zach, why are you showing me this airplane taking off? And the fact of the matter is, Reagan Airport's over there, which is the regional airport that services Washington, D.C. And all of the District of Columbia is restricted airspace, meaning all the way up to the moon past them clouds, you're not allowed to fly over it. And so you'll see planes coming in at an angle, or it looks like they're coming right up on the Lincoln. I mean, the Potomac's right across the way, and that's because they literally have to fly over the Potomac. They're not allowed to cross into DC airspace. The only things you ever see here are military helicopters, specifically Marine One. I think that's the most famous. And the decoys too. The decoys are always out, actually. So this is a funny story. The Washington Nationals had paragliders, and they got special permission from the government. Well, nobody coordinated that with the U.S. Capitol Police. So there was a plane flying into DC restricted airspace, and they had to evacuate the Capitol because they didn't coordinate with Capitol Police. So remember how I told you guys you could see the Capitol reflected in the pool from the steps of the Lincoln. I'm not quite on the steps, but man, I love this view over here. So I'm in front of the steps of the Lincoln, and I'm not going to talk in the Lincoln. I'm going to show you guys it, obviously, but again, it's history. Like, this president that held the nation together during a period of civil war, and some of the battles we're fighting over that, or we're still fighting today. It's crazy when you think about it, you know? So you can see it's a little crowded. A lot of people hang out here. There's actually like a little park here that sometimes skaters come and hang out at. It's just a magnificent building. All right, so the next place we're going is often skipped, but I think it has one of the coolest secrets that I learned by umbrella chasing, which is the act of not paying for the tour, but just kind of sticking close, because all the tour guides in DC, instead of a selfie stick, have an umbrella, and you follow the umbrella around. So like one day I was walking past a tour group, and I heard the guy talking about it. So I learned this trick, and I'm gonna try my best to show it to you guys right now. All right, so I'm gonna teach you guys something about this, because you might just go and be like, okay, there's a bunch of soldiers wandering through a field. But this triangle that makes this, right? Once you step past this little line here, you are never not in one of the statues' field of vision. I'm gonna try to walk you through them and let you see, but here we go. We're not in anybody's field of vision right now. But as soon as we step across this line, we're in his field of vision. There's a guy over there that you can't really see, but it's kind of lighting up his face. We're in his line of vision now. Still in his. There's our new guy with the radio back there. And as we cross out of his line of vision, we're in my man's line of vision. Now we're in this guy's over here. Back in radio's line of vision. Now we're in his. Like literally as you walk, there's no one. Like now we're back in his. Like as you walk, there's no one. That you're always being occupied. And you think about what it took to like come up with that creatively. Crossing into his. It's absolute craziness. Now we're into his. So I don't think that's the thing that a lot of people know. Maybe you did already. If you did, drop it in the comments. Say, hey, I knew that first. A lot of veterans come here and lay wreaths, or veterans organizations. It's beautiful, man. I actually don't know the story behind this part of it, but I'd be interested to learn it. So if anybody has like a good link to a YouTube explainer, or just feels like typing it out in the comments, I'd love to hear it. So I guess the point, now that we're out of the memorial, of telling you guys my personal story with DC, is to just remind you that it's okay to reinvent yourself, right? I'm a dumb hick from Ohio, but I came here and I reinvented myself. And yeah, this is a pretty hustle and bustle, like what are you doing for me city? So like if you're, and on top of that, it's a city that's very, very transient, which means like one day I had the coolest crew in the world, and then in almost blink of an eye, at least what it seemed to me, right? They were gone. And I still have a few very close friends that live here. Shout out Fernanda, Cornelius, Katie. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is it's okay to reinvent yourself. It's okay to try new places and try new things. You know, I invented myself here. Then I went to the Keys, kind of caught a break for a little bit, did a 2-year break. And now I'm traveling almost full time. I'm hoping to make Medellin my home base of operations, but I know that wherever I go, and I know this sounds corny, right? Like, okay, I'm trying to get insightful for the people on YouTube. But I know that wherever I go, like, DC's part of me. And I don't know. It's weird being back, but it's a really overwhelming experience. Anyway, we got one more monument to check out. Our friend Jefferson's not getting checked out today because he's way over on the other side of the tidal basin. And DC cops do not play, and we are getting near to the point where my parking will expire. So we're going to go check out one more thing, and then we're going to head home. You may have noticed we did not do the Capitol, and we did not do the White House. I'm working to get that, figure out where to put them in. But we will be visiting them coming up. So coming up to this, sorry about the drop right there. Coming up to this, you'd have no idea what this is. You'd just be like, okay, there's this big rock, and it's right along Independence. Okay, so there's this big rock, and it's kind of near the tidal basin. But this is actually the entrance to the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Or monument, I guess is the right word. But we're gonna go in here and get a nice view of it in the tidal basin. So you cross in through the little gate here, or opening, and over here there's quite a bit of Martin Luther King's famous quotes. And apparently the light's down over here, so that's cool. It sits along the tidal basin. But I think probably the best part about coming out here, you know, out of a mountain of despair, a stone of hope. And you come around, and there's a statue of him. And you just kind of wonder why it took us that long to get it. I'm not getting all social justice warrior-y, but considering the FBI building's down the way and they did everything that they could to sabotage him, look who had the last laugh. Yeah, he died for what he believed in, but he's here. And this, of course, is the tidal basin. Now, there's usually like paddle boats that you can take out here. They look like swans. I've always wanted to do it, so ladies, hit me up. But and then over across the way is the Jefferson Memorial. And that's DC monuments at night, guys. So, a couple closing thoughts as we bring this to a close, because I'm really going to be pushing my luck to get back to the car before the cops either give me a ticket, boot me, or tow me. Like I said, I owe this city a lot of who I am today, and for better and worse. But DC's the shit, and more people should come here. And don't just do like the touristy spots. Like tonight was great, right? I got to show you guys nighttime monuments. If you are going to come and see the monuments, nighttime's the best time. And you should avoid the Cherry Blossom Festival like the plague, because it's one of those things you should do once and then you never do again. But this is a vibrant city, and I can't wait to show you guys more of it. And I appreciate you guys for listening, watching, listening to my personal stories about this place. Trust me, there's going to be a lot more. So I am on Constitution, and I am about to get back to my car. But I want to thank you guys. If there's anything you'd like to see coming up, I will be in Spain and the UK by the time this video posts. So just leave me a comment, something you'd like to see or tips to check out. Would love to hear about it. So thanks again for watching, and welcome to DC.